In this Power City weekly live stream, we're going to be touching on safety, security, and audits when it comes to DeFi protocols. So with no further ado, let me bring up my partner in crime, Mr. Just Ask Jesse in the house.
Hey, y'all.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. How are things going?
Things are going great. We're still building. We've got a lot of things launched, and there's still more to come. We've got Pixel Park in the works. We've got Amplifier for Earn and Flex in the works. And then we've got some other surprises even beyond that.
Very excited for all of those projects, especially Amplifier for Earn. As we know, a lot of people do hold PLSX. You can use that, obviously, in the Earn protocol to take a loan and get yourself an over-collateralized DeFi stablecoin, PXDC, but also with the Amplifier for that, you can automate your DeFi yield. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be utilizing that. That's coming soon, right?
Yep. Amplifier is really cool. It's a front end that works right now on for liquid loans. So it's a way to interact with the liquid loans contracts the way you normally would, with some cool additional features like slider bars, and it just looks a little bit different because everything's kind of on one page instead of multiple pages. So it's just a different feel, but it goes much beyond that. You can turn on some automation. You can have this thing auto compound your positions with different strategies. It's as simple or as complex as you want it to be.
Yeah, it really is. Like you said, you can go granular, you can go very simple. One thing that I like, we've talked about this before, but it's a nice handy feature, is the compound all button. So you can come in here and you can compound. I mean, obviously, if you've got automation on, it's going to be automating at some point throughout the day. But if you, for some reason, the markets move, you don't want to wait for it, you want to come in here and just compound all of your rewards and put them where they need to be, then you can do that with that compound all button, saving you multiple clicks and batching gas transactions, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
We've also wanted to touch on some stuff with security today, right? Because obviously with our stuff, we always, nothing ever really goes to plan exactly on timelines, but we want to make sure that everything is audited and security is tip top.
Right. So at the basic level, every user needs to be very security conscious with your own crypto. All right. I can't stress enough that it's extremely important to use things such as hardware wallets, right? A seed phrase, you've got a couple options with the seed phrase, right? When you create a seed phrase, which can be done with an app, it can be done with MetaMask on your computer. Now, that is not the safest way to generate a seed phrase, right? Because at some point you just generated it and it was displayed to you on your computer, which could have had a screen recorder maliciously installed onto it. You could have. You certainly don't want to type a seed phrase into your computer. You don't want to store it on a Word document. You don't want to take a picture of it and store that as a JPEG somewhere on your computer, because if your computer is ever compromised, whether it's somebody physically gains access to your computer and now they can see your seed phrase, or you click a malicious link, you click something that authorizes somebody to have access to your computer, they start poking around on your computer, they see your seed phrase, they write it down, now they have the same control you would have, right? So how you prevent that is you generate a seed phrase outside of a computer on a little device called a hardware wallet. And a good example of that would be a Trezor. There's Trezors, there's ledgers, there's keystones, there's a bunch of different hardware wallets. And the most important thing is you're not generating on a computer where all this activity and this internet activity could literally compromise your seed phrase. Your seed phrase is now generated on a little tiny device that has no connection to the internet, right? And you still would write that down or stamp that on something and go store that for safekeeping somewhere. And then what your hardware wallet does is, because that contains your private keys, your seed phrase has all the private keys behind it. You now sign transactions using that little hardware wallet. So the only way that a transaction can happen using your account is if you give authorization, spending approvals or something like that to an app, which you're not going to do, or somebody has physical access to your hardware wallet. They know the PIN number to get into it, or the thumbprint thing, or whatever it is that your hardware wallet has. They would have to have physical access to your hardware wallet, and they would link that to a MetaMask and sign transactions using your hardware wallet. And it just becomes impossible then for people through the internet who would like to give you malicious software, like malware or something like that. Like they can't gain access to signing a transaction because they physically need that hardware wallet to be able to sign a transaction using your address, for your addresses.
I like to explain it to newbies. Sorry, quickly, just to interrupt. With like a key in the real world, right? So if you've got one key for a door, and that's the only key for that door, only the person who has that key can open that door. So this is the same, right? But on the blockchain.
Absolutely. Now, you can take these hardware wallets, and they actually get even safer than what I described, where not only would you need the hardware wallet, but you would also need to know something like a hidden passphrase that you have concocted to go along with that thing to access and sign transactions on your wallet. So imagine having a hardware wallet, and you use that to sign transactions, but it won't even access the wallets in question unless you also tell it a new phrase or word or password, a password that you came up with, or even a phrase. You have to tell it that first for it to even access the wallets where your stuff is stored. So now you just added another layer of protection. Not only does somebody need physical access to your device, which has the seed phrase, and they need the PIN number or whatever to get into it, but then they also need to know the hidden passphrase for each of the wallets or series of wallets that you have come up with. So you can have a passphrase that says, the sky is blue, and every other letter is capital, and you've mixed in some numbers and symbols and stuff in there. You can make it as complex or simple as you want. I'm just letting you know that, look, first things first, hardware wallet. Then you can take it a step further and protect yourself even more by using hidden passphrases. Now, this is basic level crypto. When you have your keys, your coins, you need to make sure that your assets are protected. Now, let's think about protocols, where a protocol has launched some code on the blockchain. And let's say a protocol has keys that access certain things they can change with code, right? We may have seen this recently in Pulse Chain. Imagine a dev that launches something and the team needs to retain some sort of ownership of the contract somewhere, a staking pool or something like that. Now, where should that private key be stored? Should it be stored on a Word document on a computer? No. Should it be in a picture, a JPEG, on a phone or on a computer? No. Should it be inside of the MetaMask and that key was generated using MetaMask on the computer? No. Should it be on a hardware wallet? Maybe, right? But then you only have one person that has full control and can manipulate the protocol. Could it be on a hardware wallet with a hidden passphrase? Maybe that's even a little bit safer, right? The best option for that, for a protocol who needs some sort of access to the code, would be a multi-sig solution where now multiple entities have to sign the transaction. And each of those entities could also be using hardware wallets or hardware wallets with hidden passphrases. Now, when you combine all that together, you have something that a bad actor can't just send malware to your like a founder's computer or something and gain access to a private key and then manipulate a protocol if that protocol has keys to certain functions, right? It would require that bad actor to have physical control of multiple people's hardware wallets and their hidden passphrases, and it just becomes infinitely more complex for a protocol to get hacked, right? So what we saw recently in the community is a claim. Well, first off, you saw some staking pools in a different protocol. Now, one of ours, some staking pools get completely drained, and what you heard was, it was some malware. Somebody gained access to the private keys, and then they they manipulated the protocol and drained the protocol. Now that's horrible. All right. First off, like I said, basic level user, just a user should be safety conscious enough that they're using a hardware wallet at a minimum, maybe hidden passphrases to take it a step further. All right. Now, when you have a founder or a team that is storing their private keys on a computer, and then a claim that some bad actors sent malware and then gained access to that private key. Well, first off, if that's true, that means you have the absolute worst of the worst security practices, and you likely rushed your build and had no consideration at all for how to keep your users safe. All right, so that's a big mistake. I believe that team maybe is trying to correct those mistakes after the fact, after some users have already lost a lot of money. We'll see how that goes in the community. You should never ever see that with a team, though. Now, when you see protocols that take a long time to build, let's say you see something on testnet, like you saw Earn on testnet, you saw Flex on testnet for a while, and people were asking, how come when mainnet? Well, at least some of those days or even weeks is the team getting everything set up, whether that's hardware wallets and their individuals setting up their hidden passphrases and then creating a multi-sig solution, testing that multi-sig, running through transactions that they need to where all the team required signers can sign through the multi-sig and make sure stuff works. Like there's always practice and rehearsals for these sort of things that a team has to go through. That is part of that delay when you see something on testnet and you say, "Oh, when mainnet?" and it's not on mainnet yet. Well, there's some days in there where the team is actually rehearsing some things, practicing some safety protocols on top of other things, right? And it is unfortunate that there are teams willing to launch stuff out there in a rush just because they think, we'll be first to market or something, and the community really wants this, so we're just going to launch it really quickly, and then hype it and promote it and pump it. And then what happens? It gets drained because they skipped a lot of the necessary steps that you're supposed to go through to keep your users safe. I can tell you right now, we are very deliberate in everything that we do at POWERCITY. We are extremely security conscious of our contracts and our protocols. We have extremely thorough testing. We have private testnets. We have public testnets that the community can try our things. Our code is audited. It's verified. And we take all these things extremely seriously.
Well, in life, I mean, I've learned this the hard way. Many things, mistakes love a rush decision. And in crypto, a lot of the time people want things, right? They want the coin to launch, the protocol to launch. But obviously when you rush things and you don't take your time, we can see mistakes that have happened with other stuff. So as you can see with our 5 protocols running now, we've got Flex, Earn, Amplifier, Core, PortalX, all working flawlessly. And that's because of all the things that Jesse said, taking time, running rehearsals, making sure security is tip top. And the same for our coming protocols too, right?
Yeah. There's so many things that have to be looked at. I'll even give you all an example. So we know that there's an emission of tokens that can be claimed, for example, whether that was earn tokens had a claim period that's now over, by the way, and flex tokens has a claim period that's still open, right? Well, that emission is like by block, right? So every block, some tokens get emitted. And you have to kind of estimate, because not every block is exactly the same amount of time. It's not like, oh, we have 10-second block time. You could have one block that's 9 seconds, another block that's 11 seconds, one block that's 10 seconds. So you really have to estimate some things, and you can tell the community, hey, guess what? We're going to have a 6-month claim period, when in all actuality, you have estimated that the full amount of tokens will be released, but just spread out over a certain number of blocks, right? You know how many blocks it'll take to release them all. You can only estimate, is that going to be exactly 6 months, or is that going to be 5.5 months, or is that going to be 6.5 months? You don't really know until you get closer to the end. You can test these things on testnet, and maybe even the block times are different over on testnet, right? These are mistakes, or not even mistakes. These are things that are acceptable in blockchain. Little nuances like that, okay? And you actually saw some of that in Earn Protocol. You saw a 6-month claim period that didn't fully last 6 months. While everyone got their tokens, it didn't fully last 6 months. So that's why I give you this example. There are things like that that are fully acceptable in blockchain. What is completely unacceptable is contracts that that bad actors can gain control of and then drain a protocol, which is not something you will see in any of our things.
Exactly. Just to answer Franklin's question about, is there a formula for redemptions? I've just posted the link there. You can see in the docs.powercity.io/Flex protocol redemptions, you can find all the information about how redemptions work. So as you said, Jesse, security starts obviously with the individual, right?
Passwords, starts with the individual. Yep.
Seed phrases, hardware wallets. I mean, there's, like you said before, there are multiple options for hardware wallets, but even the most basic Trezor, in my opinion, obviously not affiliated at all, would work very well for most people. And then you have to, the good thing about DeFi is you're in control. The bad thing is you're in control too, right? So you need to make sure that you have your seed phrases copied and secure and stored in certain locations and stuff like that. There's a small learning curve to it, but once you get it down, it becomes second nature. Whether you're just sending crypto, you're staking, you're claiming rewards, whatever, you use that hardware wallet just like a key. And then obviously going a step further with protocols and teams and dApps, then obviously it needs to be taken to the next level. And one thing that I really like with PowerCity and what we do is, like you said, we test severely, right? All different scenarios and what's not before anything goes to mainnet. So we have a few protocols coming down the pipe. We have the Amplifier for the Earn protocol, like we touched on earlier. Amplifier for liquid loans is currently out and is live on the mainnet. So if you do hold PLS, you do like to do something with your PLS, especially taking a loan and automating your DeFi yield, you can do that there. So I think
I see Franklin does have another question. So Franklin, 2 things to remember. Maybe you're looking in PulseX. You should go look over in PHUX protocol, Flux protocol, because they're the ones that pioneered on Pulse Chain, at least, the stablecoin pools, the stable swap pools, which have the best algorithm for swapping between stable coins. So you'll find the most liquidity there. In fact, you could just use Portal X, or you can use Pateus, and it should Pateus will find those pools that are over in Fux protocol. Now, another thing to remember is each of those Hex DC is directly redeemable for $1 worth of Hex. The protocol itself is kind of like its own liquidity pool, right? While we don't call it a swap, it's called a redemption. At all times, every single Hex DC that's out there is able to extract $1 worth of Hex if so desired. You can come back, click redeem, and you get $1 worth of Hex, right? So that's kind of, it may feel a lot like a swap. The protocol itself is its own liquidity pool. Do we want to see pools grow outside? Absolutely. What will that require? Well, I think it's going to require some more usage of this. It's going to require maybe Hex value to go up a bit, so people get more excited and then are looking for other things to do with their Hex besides sell it. At the moment in this down market, Hex has gone down and down and down quite a bit. There's not as much usage as you would like to see giant pools of Hex DC on the dexes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I think that wraps it up for today. I think we've touched on what we wanted to touch on with security, Jesse. Thanks for your time as always, and we will see you on the next one.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys. And if you want to check out any of our live dApps, you can find the links below in the description box. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.